Hello, friends and fellow gamers, I'm That Zero, and today we are back to chat on some more Last Cloudy, and it's an exciting one today. Whether you're a new player, an old player, whatever it may be, you maybe have heard about this particular thing that can make you significantly stronger. Now, I'm not talking about like, well, you can min-max and manage to get an extra 5% damage by raising your damage cap a little bit. No, I'm talking about legitimately increasing the amount of value your unit can provide, whether it's damage or support or something, by easy 30 to 50% when it's relevant. For support units, it's always applicable. For DPS units, you kind of need to have certain types of attacks to make it work, but we're going to get into it. This thing that I am talking about is animation canceling. I'm sure that you've heard it talked about before, and maybe you actually haven't. Maybe you've even done it before without really knowing. There's a few key things that you need to know about animation canceling. There's kind of 3 different levels to it, or 3 different ways to utilize it. One of them is when you cast a spell that takes up the cast space. At least that's what I always call it. The things that are AoE and only one can exist at a time. When you do that, your unit is usually locked into an animation for a certain amount of time, either the entire duration of the spell, or other things where you're just sitting there kind of waiting and they're like holding their arm up in the air really dramatically, like they're honing the spell. No, the spell already exists. You can just go in, you can hit cancel by initiating a different type of magic, hit the cancel button that overlays on top of the magic button, and then while your spell is happening, you can be running around, you can be throwing some skills, you can be casting some other spells that don't use the cast space, such as debuffs or some actual buffs or some tier 1 or 2 spells if you want to do that. But the point is, there's things that you can do with that time, so you should do it. That's like the easiest version of it. The second is actual spell canceling, which is in order to loop through different spells. The main prerequisite is you need to be casting spells that are insta-cast. So all support spells, so your Braves, your debuffs like Blazer, you use Vitality or Haste or, Heat Live or Manga Exciter or whatever it might be. All of these type of buff and debuff spells are all instant cast, which means if you start to cast it, if you get flinched, the effect is still happening. It might take a second or two because that's the animation, but the effect's still going to happen. It persists, which means if you cancel the animation and then queue up a different spell, you'll get all of the preceding effects, which is really, really cool. The same thing works for skills, except not everybody's kit has skills with persisting effects. So for instance, you could use somebody like Shift Lilibet, her S1 that rains arrows down, that has a persistent effect. If she fires it off and then gets flinched, the arrows still rain down and do damage. With Alice, if she starts launching rockets off to go hit the enemy and then gets flinched, okay, the rockets still keep firing and go heat down that target and they still get hit. Those are persisting effects. V, his S2 and S3, does the same thing. Every single one of Rabala's skills does this. Luxeus, the brand new unit, at least as of making this video, all of his do this. So what you can do is you start to use the ability, the animation is coming down, you can go into your magic menu, and that's your only other prerequisite. You need some sort of magic equipped. So you need skills that do persisting damage, even if you get flinched. And then you need some sort of magic to be able to go in and cancel with. So normally, if you're in the middle of a skill and you go to cast something, you'll get the little red cancel button, just like we were just talking about with spells. If you then cancel the spell you have queued up, you're actually canceling the current animation, which means your character, like when casting the tier 4 spells, is free to run around and do things. So if your damage is going to happen anyway, this is great, because it means that you instantly reset your animations and you can throw another one, and then another one, and then another one. It's great. Units like Baron, all of his skills are reliant on him doing the animation with his sword. If you cancel those skills, his damage stops abruptly, which you're about to see. So you need to find what units you can actually use and which ones you can't, and then be able to go in and master this. And it's actually not just skills either. There's certain units such as V that have exceptional auto attacks, and you can actually cancel the auto attacks in order to spam and really, really abuse that damage. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this actually looks in-game, and see if we can really showcase what it looks like to get an extra like 30 to 50% out of your units. Alright, so we're going to go in here and show you how you can tell if cast canceling is going to be worthwhile. The main thing to take note of is when you're in single player, it's much easier to do because you get time stop, as you have right here. Okay, you're not moving. If you're in multiplayer, things are more real time, so your button movements and how quickly you can navigate the magic menu comes into play more. The main thing is, if an animation takes more than like half of a second, you can probably be saving time. Barons with Ruination is pretty quick, so while you can cast cancel it, it's probably just fine to just use it as it is because it's a pretty quick animation anyhow. But we will go ahead and we'll use Glass Record, and we'll use Ruination. Now we are in here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the skill, and then right after I use it, there's no damage yet, but he's done the animation, I'm going to start using Ruination. As soon as I use it, it will show a cancel button here in red. That is in order to cancel the spell that I have queued up. But when I do that, I'm going to cancel the animation. So, I have canceled my animation. Damage has not really gone through. Like, there's almost no damage that has been dealt now. Now, let's see what an actual S3 from Baron looks like normally. That. So, I missed out on all that damage because I canceled the skill early. So, that is an example of a skill that cannot be cast canceled. So, the fortunate piece is that Baron's very straightforward to use, so you don't need to do this high-level cast canceling, skill canceling type stuff in order to make the most of him. He just kind of works all the time. And he's great. If he could animation cancel, he would be even more busted. But the fact that he's not just means that to use him to his fullest potential is much easier and more approachable for people. He's just a fantastic unit. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what happens when cast canceling does actually work. We're going to get a few charges up on V, and then we're going to just start dumping through all of his abilities. But you'll see, as opposed to when we were using Baron and his damage was being cut short, all of the damage is going to compound here on V. Alright, so this is what we're going to do now. See his health, we're going to Shadow Combo. As soon as it shows us using that stock, we're going to come in here, and we're going to cancel it out. Now I went back into the magic menu, that's fine. Now I'm going to close this and then use another skill. I'm going to come in, cancel, use another skill. Cancel, use another skill. Cancel, use another skill. So now all of those just happened, and he's down to about quarter of his health. Alright, so on V, I just tapped our S3. I'm going to go ahead and book to cancel. And then as soon as I come out of this magic menu from canceling, going to hit the S3 again. We're going to cancel. We're going to S2. We're going to cancel. S2. Cancel. S2. Cancel. Alright. And now, in a matter of 10 seconds, he is now down, about 70% of his HP. So about 10 seconds since starting, we were able to unload 2 S3s, 3 S2s. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and do this again with none of the cast canceling and just see what the times look like. Just using those throughout their entire duration, waiting for all of the animations to play out. So, we are starting at about 16 seconds right now. We are going to use both of our S3s. Going to use all of our S2s. Now you can see we're even getting stunned now because of some of the time that has passed. We are sitting at 24 seconds. We can go ahead and Shadow Claw, Guillotine. Didn't have enough time to get another Guillotine off. Okay, there's our final Guillotine. That animation is done. And it has now been about 17 seconds? About 70% longer to get the same amount of damage off. And we actually lost damage there. So as you can see, you can get more damage and not have to deal with as many things from bosses if you can manage to get these abilities off much, much quicker. The main thing in Last Claudia is really trying to budget time. Like, the reason getting SCT back on your skills is so incredibly good with things like Glass Record or Honey Elixir is because you're saving yourself time. You don't have to wait for skills to charge, you're saving time. It's the same thing for dealing damage to bosses. If you wait too long, they can capitalize on it by either getting buffs or having enough time to hit you to do enough damage. If you can get yourself to have more time than the opponent, you're going to have a much better time. This is probably the simplest form of cast canceling that there is. This is just when you are in the animation of a tier 4 spell, which is one of the big epic ones, takes usually a long time to wind up, lasts on the field for a pretty long time, does a pretty fair amount of damage, at least compared to, how trash magic is right now. Some people, a surprising amount of people, don't actually know that you don't need to be locked into that animation, so you can just get out of it, so you can be doing physical attacks or moving around to kite enemies or casting some support magic or something while the animation is going. So I can do Nether Tempest. Okay, that's happening. So now, normally, if I try to do a Giga Week, she just sits here, waiting. Okay, now she cast it. Now she was allowed to do stuff. But you could also just Nether Tempest, go into a different skill, cancel it right away, and then you can start using your skills while your magic is actually happening. So just be aware, it's a thing you can do. It works in Arena as well. So when you're using like a Gen or a V or Zekis, people that are doing your CC magic in Arena, don't just have them sitting there doing nothing while a Blizzard's happening or while a Grand Cross is happening or something. Take manual control of them, cancel their next spell cast, fling some abilities because they're going to have charges since you just have them focused on casting Blizzard or whatever you have them doing, and then just put in some damage. Maybe you can snag a few kills or whatever. If you can grab a couple of kills with them, then they might be able to get a Post for Honor off to get more MP to make sure they can have more magic coming back, things like that. So just be aware, this is a very basic form of animation canceling, and you should be very aware of it. You do not need to be locked in while your magic is happening. Once it is on the board, you're free to do stuff. So with that, we're going to show a different example here, where we're just going to go in with one of my favorite units, Gen. Now, first run, I am going to show applying his 3 debuffs, and then a single glass record. Okay, and recast. So he's going to recast on himself, which he does not need for his buffs, but still. We are going to apply super bad chemical. You can see we're waiting for the animation, okay? Now we're going in here, we're waiting for the animation, okay? Now we can go back in. We're waiting again for this animation, okay? And then we'll come in and we'll do a single glass record, waiting for the animation, and now we are doing it, and it has happened. We have gotten health back. 12 seconds. It has taken us 12 seconds to recast 3 debuffs and 1 glass record. Okay? This time with cast canceling. So, the way that this cast canceling actually works is your first cast will activate a skill. It needs to be instant cast. If it is not instant cast, then this whole thing doesn't work. Luckily, support magic is all instant cast. Healing magic is not instant cast. So for healing magic, God Heal, obviously instant cast, but AoE spells you need at least 70% cast speed, which I've talked about in some other videos before. In this particular case, the first 4 spells we use are already instant cast, and recast is enabling us to hit 70% so that the glass record is also instant cast. So how do you know if something is instant cast? It's much like skills. If you were to use it and have the animation start, and then you get flinched and the effect happens anyway, then great, it's instant cast. It basically has that animation go on the stack, and the effect is there, whether your unit is locked up or not. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start with a recast. We're going to now go into our drain. Fatigue. Now see, we're already on to extremely bad chemical. Those other debuffs have not gone on to the enemy yet, because those animations are still happening in the background. But we are still able to get these other things casting and ready to go. So now those debuffs have happened. Okay, now we're going to switch over to glass record. And there's our first. There's the glass record. We're at 8 seconds. So it literally took 50% more time to let the animations actually play out. Now, this is even more drastic when animations take even longer. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just show a straight glass record showcase here. Decided to move away from Eldravana. Keeps flinching my Gen, messing up my data. Alright, so this is going to be a straight run. We're going to look for the healing numbers to know when the actual effect happens. See how long it takes for us to get 5 glass record effects to happen. 1. Well, there was the first effect there. 2. 3. 4. 5. 10 seconds. Okay, so about 2 seconds apiece. Alright, and now with cast canceling. Alright, now with the cast canceling. There's 1. There's 2. 3. 4. 5. 7 seconds. So 30% quicker by doing the cast canceling. Now when you have that big of a discrepancy between things, like maybe 3 seconds doesn't feel like a lot, but in that 3 seconds, you could be applying some different buffs to things, maybe. So while a different again user is still applying their base chemical debuffs, you could have all of your debuffs applied and then be applying a vitality phaser, a speed phaser, maybe some glass records in the same exact amount of time they have spent, which means you are definitively far better support than that other was. And it's also just much more engaging to be able to come in and do this. And it's really not that hard, especially when it comes to actually casting the magic. As long as you're on something like support skills or anything else that is instacast, you are good to go. All right, for one final example, I just want to show something that I like to do with somebody like DeGrogue. This could work also with people that are running things like maybe Venomous Rainfall. I like DeGrogue because Black Hole actually groups people up and then tries to apply a silence as well. Now, you could obviously do this with Luxeus as well because he also has Black Hole. But if you're looking to abuse the Terror Melt multiplier, so we're going to Black Hole, we're going to cast Cancel into an Annul Mouth. There. So now they have all of the debuffs on them. The silence is going to come in. We can start regular attacking because everything's going to be grouped up and they're weak to ailments. And now that ailments are on everybody, we can go ahead and just start spamming our regular attacks, getting a ton of damage even though we're not even running Trishula because we don't really need to. Like I said, this could work on somebody with Venomous Rainfall, for instance, and then if you're using Venicleave in order to get more damage, you could use Venomous Rainfall, and then while the animation is happening, you could cancel it into an Annul Melt so that they're weaker to the poison, making poison more likely, and then you'll be doing 50% more damage with your Venicleave. So, not too bad. Now, I like this even more as a support, so you could run as a support to DeGrogue. I had already said animation canceling works really good as supports. Well, this isn't really much of an exception. Alright, well, I think that is about all that we have for this particular topic. Hopefully you happen to learn something here, and I hope you enjoyed my outfit shifts, if you happen to notice them. As it turns out, just because you have audio working on the first several things you record doesn't mean it's all there for everything else, and I had to go back and record 2 extra times. So, yay, audio problems are fun. Big shout out to Tweaks. He actually came into one of my live streams and heckled me a bit on using animation canceling, so I was like, alright, we'll try it. Turned out super easy, barely an inconvenience. Very grateful. He actually managed to give me a nudge in the right direction, so now I know how to do it with a bunch of my different characters. I know how to look for that piece of value within a unit itself, and then I was able to bring it to you guys as well. So hopefully you learned something, just like I recently learned something, and we can all get even better than we were the day before. For usual, if you have any questions, feel free to join up in the Discord and ask some stuff over there, or leave a comment down below. So I appreciate your time, and until next time, go forth and murder things.